This is Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez, or you might know him as just Richard Ramirez. He was famous back in the 80s for having a crime spree, and though everybody is familiar with his face and his name, not everybody is familiar with his religion. He was convicted of 13 counts of murder, and his other crimes were known to be vicious and indiscriminate. He didn't care about the age of his victims, the gender, it just mattered to him that they were as bloody as possible. Now, most people would just slap Richard with the basic title of Satanist, but that doesn't quite cover it because, as with any other religion, there are many different flavors of Satanism. This is Anton LaVey, and he formed a type of Satanism called LaVeyan Satanism. LaVeyans tend to be more of a passive sect of Satanism that focus a lot more on being peaceful and working on yourself, and they tend to shun most forms of violence and crime. Adolescent Satanism or reactive Satanism is a bit more old. It's kind of from the 80s, and it's what you think of when you think of rock and roll. The 80s was all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and Satanism fit neatly into the growing metal and heavy rock scene. Adolescent or reactive Satanists are known to have inverted the Christian idea of God and instead put Satan in that aspect. So Satan is to be worshipped, and Satan is the one above who is pulling all the strings. The last common one you're going to hear about is Luciferian, and they believe that Lucifer is a being of light and a bringer of knowledge and wisdom. Lucifer is seen as a kind and good being who brings the light out of darkness and who helps people to get the best qualities out of their life. Now, when it comes to Richard Ramirez, we have to think about all of these possibilities together, and to me, the one that makes the most sense is going to be reactive Satanism or the adolescent Satanism, which came out in the 80s, which his crime spree was from 84 to 85, and so that fits perfectly with that time frame. And it had to do with drug, sex, and rock and roll, and that was a life that he lived very, very happily. And so, with confidence, I will say that he is not a Luciferian, he is not any of the others. I believe that Richard Ramirez was a adolescent Satanist.